My mom canceled my son's 10th birthday because my sister said her kids would feel left out. That night we packed our things and left without a word. A year later, family saw how happy my kid was. My sister couldn't handle it. Her breakdown was the beginning of the end. My son Jacob had been counting down the days to his 10th birthday since the summer. We didn't have much, but I'd been slowly setting money aside from every paycheck, determined to make it special. It would be his first party since we moved back into my parents' house. I was working 2 jobs, barely keeping up with groceries and gas, so when my mom offered us the basement, I said yes without thinking too hard. I saw it as temporary, a few months at most. But time passed and we got stuck. The house was always loud with Brittany's kids running around. My sister had 2 girls, 5 and 7, and they were treated like the only grandchildren that mattered. Brittany had a job that she constantly complained about, and somehow, despite living in her own house 15 minutes away, she was always at my parents'. She dropped the girls off before work, come for dinner, spend weekends there, and nobody batted an eye. The fridge was stocked with snacks for the kids, but it didn't include the things Jacob liked. If he asked for something, the answer was usually that we couldn't afford it. If Brittany's kids asked, it appeared the budget magically stretched. I started noticing patterns. Birthday gifts for her girls were bought by my parents without question. Outfits, toys, even a small trampoline last spring. Jacob got a new pair of sneakers that I paid for, and it turned into a discussion about whether he was outgrowing his things too fast. So I stayed quiet. I kept my head down, worked, saved what I could, and counted on that birthday to make up for some of what he had missed. I booked the community center in town, planned a small party with pizza, decorations, and even a woman who did mobile petting zoos for birthdays. It wasn't extravagant, but for us, it was everything. Jacob didn't know the full plan, but he'd figured out enough to be excited. I caught him looking through the closet where I'd hidden the bags of favors. He talked about which friends from school might come, even though we'd only just moved to this district. It was the first time in months he seemed genuinely happy. Then 2 days before the party, I came home from a late shift to find my mom waiting for me in the kitchen. No hi. No, how was work? Just, Brittany said her girls are going to feel left out since they're not having a party this month. So we think it's best to cancel Jacob's birthday. We'll just do cake here. That was it. Not a discussion. A decision. Made without me. And the most disgusting part was how casual she was about it, as if Jacob's party was some frivolous indulgence. I sat there frozen, waiting for her to laugh, to say she was kidding. But she wasn't. My mom had canceled my son's 10th birthday because my sister's kids might get jealous. I said nothing. Not a word. Just went downstairs, laid on the pull-out with Jacob until he fell asleep, and stared at the ceiling. That night something snapped. A door closed in my head. I was done pretending we were welcome there. At 4 in the morning I started packing. Clothes, school supplies, my uniform, a bag of groceries I'd bought. I put everything in the trunk of the car. Jacob woke up while I was loading the last bag and rubbed his eyes. He asked if something was wrong. I told him we were going on a trip. He didn't ask much after that. We drove an hour away to stay with my friend Miranda. She lived in a small duplex with her teenage son, and even though space was tight, she let us stay in her guest room. She didn't ask for explanations. She just cleared out drawers and handed me a spare key. The day of his birthday we bought cupcakes and ordered a pizza. Miranda's son let Jacob borrow his Xbox and even gave him a wrapped-up Nerf blaster he hadn't opened. We lit 10 candles and sang in her kitchen. It was simple. It was kind. And it was probably the happiest birthday Jacob had ever had. My family didn't call. Not to ask where we were. Not to ask if Jacob was okay. Not to apologize. It was like we'd never existed. That silence told me everything I needed to know. I expected something. Even a text. A half-hearted "where did you go?" from my mother. Maybe Brittany demanding to know why I'd left without saying anything. But no one reached out. Not that week, not the next. It was as if we'd been erased. At first I kept checking my phone out of habit. Waiting for that notification. Anything. But there was nothing. My mom and Brittany were still posting family dinners, school award nights, their kids' crafts, and selfies from the living room I used to sit in. Like Jacob and I had never existed in that house. Like we hadn't shared that space even for nearly a year. It didn't hurt as much as I thought it would. Because somewhere deep down I already knew. We were just extras in their story. If we didn't benefit them directly, they had no use for us. So I moved on. It wasn't easy. Miranda let us stay as long as we needed, but I wasn't about to overstay our welcome. I took every shift I could find. At one point I was working mornings at a bakery, evenings answering phones for a plumbing company, and driving delivery in between. I was tired all the time. My back hurt, my head was always buzzing, but something inside me felt clearer than it had in years. Like I finally had something solid to stand on. Jacob adjusted fast. He liked the simplicity of Miranda's place, the small routines. Mason let him tag along for basketball in the street and we'd eat dinner with them a few nights a week. Jacob started asking questions I hadn't heard in a long time. Could we try making pancakes on Sunday? Could we go to the park after school? Not once did he mention missing my mom or Brittany or their kids. That silence from him said more than anything. By early spring, I landed a remote customer support role for an e-commerce company. It wasn't glamorous, but it was consistent. I had evenings free. Weekends too. That's when I started looking for a place of our own. I found it after a month of searching. A small 2-bedroom with a patchy yard and carpet that smelled like it had seen better days. The landlord was willing to negotiate rent in exchange for me repainting the living room and replacing the blinds. I signed the lease the next day. We moved in with a couple borrowed folding chairs, an air mattress, and a second-hand coffee maker. It didn't matter. It was ours. I took Jacob to Walmart that night and let him pick out a poster for his room. He chose a giant NASA one and stuck it up with duct tape. I watched him fall asleep under it that first night and realized, this was the first time we had something no one else could take from us. The silence from my family never broke. Not on Jacob's first day of school. Not at Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Not even on my birthday. I watched them post matching pajamas, gingerbread houses, Brittany's kids opening tablets under the tree. The same tree I decorated for years when I lived there. And Jacob? He didn't say a word about them. He was too busy making honor roll. Playing soccer. Learning how to cook scrambled eggs. Every week he added something new to his dream list. Things he wanted to try, do, see. I kept a notebook of them. Then in early summer he asked if we could have just a little party for his birthday. Just a few friends. Maybe pizza and a movie in the backyard. He said it like he was preparing himself for disappointment. What he didn't know was that I'd been planning it for months. I'd saved enough to rent out a beautiful backyard venue just outside town. There'd be catered food, a magician, a bounce house, music, a candy bar. One of the soccer moms even offered to bring a cotton candy machine. I had decorations with a space theme, a custom cake with planets and rockets, and a photographer who owed me a favor. I didn't tell Jacob anything. I just told him I'd figure something fun out and that he should invite whoever he wanted. And he did. His whole team. Kids from school. Even Mason and a few of the older boys who still played basketball with him sometimes. As the RSVPs came in and the packages piled up in the second bedroom, something shifted in me. A kind of quiet pride I hadn't felt in years. I had pulled this off. Without anyone. Without my family. Without Brittany. Without my mom. Without a single dollar of help from them. And I didn't just pull it off. I made it bigger than anything they ever gave their kids. I didn't plan to post pictures. It wasn't about showing off. But one of the moms tagged me in a few photos. Then another posted a video of Jacob cutting the cake while the magician stood behind him making a dove appear. And just like that, it was out there. I didn't even realize it until 2 days later when Brittany showed up in my driveway. And that's when everything really started to unravel. The party was on a Saturday afternoon in early August. Perfect weather. Not too hot, a little breeze. The kind of day that feels like something good is supposed to happen. Jacob had no idea what was waiting for him. I told him we were going to meet a few friends at a park, and when we pulled up to the venue and saw the balloons and banners with his name on them, his eyes went wide. He just stood there staring. Then he looked at me and didn't say a word, just smiled. And for a while it really was perfect. Kids were laughing, running between the bounce house and the magician's setup. The pizza came right on time. Jacob got hugged, tackled, handed gifts, high-fived, and someone even brought him a telescope with his name engraved on it. For the first time in a long time I saw him in his element. Confident, happy, like he finally felt like he belonged somewhere. Then came the knock on the gate. I was in the middle of helping the cake lady set up when I turned and saw my mother standing there like she'd been invited. Brittany was behind her, arms crossed, and my dad trailed them both, looking like he had no idea what was going on. I froze. For a second I honestly thought maybe they were there to apologize. Maybe they'd seen the photos online and realized what they'd missed. Maybe they finally got it. That illusion didn't last long. Brittany started walking through the yard like it was hers. She looked around at the decorations, the setup, the food. My mom tried to hug Jacob, who hesitated before stepping back. He didn't say anything. Just looked at me like, what is this? My dad gave him a gift bag and mumbled something about how he hoped Jacob had been doing well. Then Brittany let loose. She started talking just loud enough for people to hear. About how some people thought they were better than everyone else. How funny it was that someone who couldn't even afford their own place a year ago was suddenly hosting a luxury birthday party. She said her girls were heartbroken not to be invited and that I'd always been a selfish little brat who used her own son to play the victim. Every word was louder than the last. Kids stopped bouncing. Parents looked confused. Jacob stood still in the middle of it all, holding the telescope someone had just handed him. I asked them to leave. Politely at first. But Brittany wasn't done. She said I had no right to exclude her daughters, their cousins, and that I'd poisoned Jacob against the family. Then she said something about how if I was throwing around that kind of money, maybe I should start paying back all the help they'd given me over the years. That was it. I walked over, told them they had 5 seconds to leave before I called the cops. My mom tried to calm me down, but I told her she'd made her choice the day she canceled Jacob's birthday because of Brittany's kids. And I meant it. They left, eventually. Not without more dramatic words, and not before Brittany told me I'd regret cutting everyone off. But standing there with my friends around me and my son still smiling despite the chaos, I knew that was a lie. Because she didn't realize something yet. For the last year, I had been quietly helping Brittany behind the scenes. Small things. Grocery apps. Paying her girls' soccer registration anonymously. A few hundred for rent one month when she claimed her paycheck was delayed. She never knew it came from me. I'd used a mutual contact to pass it along without her knowing. Because back then I still felt guilty. Still thought maybe I should help even if they didn't deserve it. That ended that day. She didn't know it yet, but I was about to cut her off completely. And once she felt the weight of what I'd been doing for her, and what would no longer come, the real breakdown would begin. I thought the worst was over after they left the party. I figured Brittany would go home and stew, maybe post something petty on Facebook. I didn't expect what came next. Not even close. The day after the party, I got a call from the local grocery delivery service. A manager asking if I still wanted to authorize the recurring payment that had been tied to a customer named Brittany H. She'd apparently tried to place another order, but the payment method, mine, was declined. I told him to remove my card from her account. Permanently. The same day, the soccer club sent an automated email about missed fees for 2 players. I emailed back and told them I wouldn't be covering Brittany's girls anymore. By that night, 3 more small things popped up. A shared login for an audiobook service. A student lunch balance I used to quietly top off. A birthday gift card I'd scheduled months ago for her oldest daughter. Gone. All of it. I didn't even message her. I just shut everything down. 3 days later the calls started. It was my mom first. She left a voicemail saying she didn't understand why I was being so harsh. That Brittany had always spoken out of turn, but didn't mean anything by it. Then she slipped in the real reason. That Brittany's rent was late and she thought maybe I could still help. As if none of what had happened meant anything. As if we could just go back. I deleted the voicemail. Then Brittany messaged me herself. No apology. Just a screenshot of an overdraft notice and, "Is this your doing?" I ignored her. What none of them seemed to grasp was how much I'd quietly done for them while they belittled me. I didn't do it for recognition. I did it because I thought family meant something. That maybe someday they'd realize how unfair things had been for Jacob. But they didn't. And now they wouldn't even get the benefit of my silence. It only got worse from there. A week later, I got a call from Jacob's school. Someone had sent a message to the principal claiming I wasn't his legal guardian. That he might be living in unstable conditions. The report was anonymous, but the phrasing, it was Brittany. I could feel it. The exact kind of passive-aggressive attempt to take control that she'd used before. I met with the school and brought every document. Lease. Utility bills. School ID. Jacob's medical forms. They apologized. Said they had to follow up, but clearly the report was baseless. I smiled, nodded, and thanked them. Then I drove to Brittany's house. She wasn't expecting me. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I stood on her porch, asked her if she wanted to be very sure of the line she was trying to cross, because if she thought I was done before, she had no idea what was coming. She didn't say a word. Just stared at me like she'd seen a ghost. And for once, she didn't have anything clever to say. Later that night, I sat down at my computer, opened my accounts, and deleted them from everything. Facebook. Blocked. Instagram. Gone. My number? Changed. Emails? Filtered to spam. I didn't want them to know where I lived. What I did. How Jacob was doing. I didn't want them to see the photos from his party, or hear about how well he was doing in school. I didn't want them to know a thing about our lives. And just when I thought it was over, that they'd finally back off, something happened that none of us saw coming. Brittany's fiancé left her. Apparently he'd been planning it for a while, but the public meltdown at my son's birthday party, and what followed after, was the final straw. A friend of a friend told me he'd packed his things and moved to his brother's place out of state. Left her with the kids, the rent, and no car since the one she drove was in his name. It was like watching a house of cards finally collapse. And as messed up as it sounds, I didn't feel bad. Because for once, the person who always got everything, the attention, the sympathy, the help, finally had to face what it felt like when no one showed up. Just like they'd done to me. And I was only getting started. It took less than a week for Brittany's life to start unraveling. First came the Facebook post, a dramatic black square with a caption about betrayal and people using you until you're empty. Then the not-so-subtle passive-aggressive quotes. Stuff about fake family and how some women raise sons to be weapons. A few of her usual crowd commented with hearts and "Stay strong, girl." But the rest? Silence. Because her fiancé had left. Packed up his stuff and gone. He moved to Colorado to live with his brother and didn't even take the time to make it look polite. Just disappeared. Someone told me he'd been planning it for months, and what happened at Jacob's party was the final push. Apparently he'd warned her before about her obsession with controlling other people's lives, and seeing her meltdown in front of a yard full of kids was his confirmation. She was on her own. And she wasn't handling it well. I stopped hearing about her through mutual friends, because I'd cut off most of them too. But Miranda still caught bits and pieces. Like how Brittany had to pull her kids out of the after-school program because she couldn't pay the fee. Or how she started asking around to see if anyone knew a good babysitter willing to work for experience instead of cash. It was pathetic. What really surprised me though was what happened the following week. I got a plain white envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a printed screenshot from my old Facebook. A photo of Jacob laughing mid-jump in the bounce house at his birthday party. On the back, in thick, rushed handwriting, someone had written, "You'll regret this." No name. No explanation. Just that. For a few seconds I just stared at it. Not scared. Just unsettled. There was something so small and desperate about it. Like whoever sent it couldn't stand the fact that I had built something without them. That I'd been right to leave. That they were watching us and they weren't invited anymore. I took it straight to the local police. Filed a report. Gave them everything I could, the envelope, the note, the name I suspected. I told them it was probably nothing, just someone trying to rattle me. But still I wanted it documented. After that I got serious. I wasn't playing defense anymore. I called a lawyer and finalized everything. Full legal custody of Jacob, sole medical decision rights, emergency contact changes. I filed paperwork that made it illegal for anyone, including my parents or sister, to access any information about Jacob without my written consent. I flagged Brittany's name at his school, his soccer club, even his pediatrician's office. I wasn't giving anyone a single opening. And then I did something I'd been waiting a year to do. I logged into the backup account I'd made after deleting my original Facebook and posted a photo album. All from Jacob's birthday. The cake, the magician, the telescope gift, the smiling kids, Jacob covered in confetti, dancing with his friends. The caption was simple. A year ago, someone tried to cancel this boy's birthday because they said their own kids would feel left out. Look at him now. Within a few hours it spread. Not viral, not huge, but big enough. Mutual friends started resharing it. A few of Brittany's friends commented. One even said, "Wait, that's the birthday she flipped out about?" Someone else wrote, "Your son looks so happy. Good for you." I didn't respond to any of it. I didn't have to. The next morning Miranda called and told me she'd seen my mom outside, sitting on the front porch holding something in her lap. It was a photo album. The one I had mailed weeks ago. The one filled with prints from the party. She sat there for over an hour flipping through the pages, not talking to anyone. Not even Brittany, who was inside. No one from that house ever called. Not my dad. Not Brittany. Not even my mom, after sitting there with proof of everything she'd missed. I don't think they knew how to. But the damage was done. The door was closed. For good this time. I changed my number. Deleted the backup account. Blocked every remaining connection we had. Not out of anger anymore. Not even for revenge. Just peace. Because the truth was, I didn't want Jacob growing up thinking this was normal. I didn't want him asking why his birthday came with drama and silence and threats. I didn't want him questioning why the people who should have protected him were the same ones who always tried to diminish him. So I erased them. All of them. And just like that, they stopped existing in our lives. What Brittany didn't realize, what none of them realized, was that cutting us off a year ago was the biggest favor they ever did for me. 3 months passed without a word. Not a message. Not a knock. Not even another envelope. It was like they'd finally accepted it. We were done. For the first time in over a decade, my life was mine. No guilt-tripping texts, no phone calls asking for favors masked as family support. No more being told Jacob needed to learn to share the spotlight. Silence. And it was beautiful. But silence, I learned, doesn't mean peace. Because Brittany wasn't finished. Not really. She didn't try to reach me directly. She went for something more twisted. I got a message from a friend of Miranda's. Someone who didn't even know me personally, saying Brittany had started posting about Jacob on a new anonymous blog. Not by name, but it was obvious. She referred to me as a single mom who used her kid to manipulate sympathy, said I had cut off her innocent nieces for no reason, and hinted at emotional damage caused to her family. Baker. She posted a cropped photo from the party. The one with Jacob holding his telescope. She'd taken it from one of the tagged accounts before I deleted everything. I sat on my couch that night staring at the screen. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even surprised. Just tired. This woman who had been handed everything, who had 2 daughters smothered in affection by my parents, who never once cared that my son was left out. Now she was claiming she was the victim. So I did what I should have done long ago. I contacted the hosting platform and filed a privacy complaint. Sent screenshots, explained that my minor son's image had been posted without consent. The blog was taken down 2 days later. Quietly. No drama. No fight. I waited for her to try again. He didn't. Because here's what I think happened. For the first time, Brittany hit a wall she couldn't climb over. No one to defend her. No money coming in from me. No fiancé. No sympathy. Just a few people around her, finally realizing that maybe she wasn't the victim she made herself out to be. And my parents? Still silent. After that photo album, nothing. They didn't reach out. Didn't show up. Didn't try. It's like they were hoping I'd forget what they did. Hoping time would smooth it over. But there are some things you don't come back from. Canceling your grandson's birthday because your favorite daughter didn't want to feel uncomfortable? That sticks. And Jacob, he never asked about them. Not once. He started middle school in September. We took first day photos on our new porch. He made the school's STEM club. Won a small science fair. Built a rocket that nearly took out my bird feeder. I found him one night reading space articles in bed and asked him what he wanted to be when he grew up. He didn't even hesitate. Said, whatever I want. We're not stuck anymore. That hit me. We're not stuck anymore. And we're not. We've got routines now. Movie nights. Grocery lists with snacks he actually likes. Inside jokes. Real holidays with real joy. And when his 12th birthday came around this fall, he didn't want anything big. Just 10 of his closest friends, a build-your-own-burger station and a bonfire in the backyard. He planned the whole thing himself. The night after, when everyone had gone and we were sitting by the fire pit, I asked if he missed them, the people we left behind. He thought about it for a second, then shrugged. I like it better like this, he said. It's quieter. That's when I knew I made the right choice. I didn't just walk away. I didn't just block numbers or delete pictures. I removed the idea that we owed them anything. I let go of the weight they'd spent years placing on my shoulders. I stopped trying to fix people who didn't want to be better. And in doing that, I gave my son something better than any party. I gave him peace. They'll never know anything about us again. Not our birthdays, not our holidays, not our wins or our little joys. And I hope that one day if they do think about us, it stings. Not because we're gone, but because we never needed them to begin with.